All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be showing you my entire Dennis L. McKIERNAN book collection. Seems like my Dennis L. McKIERNAN book reviews are some of the more popular reviews I do on the channel. Classic fantasy. Not a lot of modern readers know about this guy, so we'll introduce you right now. I've got all of his Tales of Mithgar series right here. All of them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books in that series. I've got them all. Now, he's written other series, but I do not collect any of those books in those other series. It's the Mithgar series that I collect mostly. And I started collecting them in the early 1980s when the first trilogy came out, which was the Iron Tower trilogy. And I've reviewed some of these books on the channel already. But we will get to that in a minute. I laid all of these books out. I mean, he wrote them at various times, but I've laid them out in chronological order as far as the series go. Not publication order, because the publication order is everywhere. And mostly these are all standalone novels, but they're all part of the same Mithgar universe, which is a fantasy land, much like Middle-earth. And we will get into that. So let's talk about that first. The first ever trilogy he wrote was the Iron Tower trilogy, followed closely by the Silver Call duology. And these books were written specifically as sequels to The Lord of the Rings. And they were almost published as sequels to The Lord of the Rings, but then the people in power of the Lord of the Rings franchise was like, no, let's not farm out Lord of the Rings books like the Star Wars universe has, or the Star Trek universe has, or Dragonlance has. Let's just keep all the Lord of the Rings. Let's just have it be Tolkien, and Tolkien only. So they kind of, after these books were written, they kind of scrapped the idea. But the publisher still liked the books, and so they published them under the Iron Tower name. They changed the name of the characters, the races of the characters, the names of the places. But it really does still feel like you're traveling around in and out of Middle-earth in this book. Not only that, but Dennis L. McKIERNAN kind of copied the writing style of J.R.R. Tolkien as he was writing this. Well, the thing is, these books became very popular in the early 80s. Like, this guy was one of the more popular fantasy authors in the early 80s because of these books, because it gave people their Tolkien fix just in the Mithgar realm, not in Middle-earth realm. But anyway, they became so popular that the guy just kept writing books in the realms of Mithgar, different stories, all written in the same style as Tolkien would write. A lot of times people pick up these books and they kind of crap all over him because they're like, this guy's just mimicking Tolkien. Well, he was, and he was for a reason. And so there you have it. So let's go through these books one at a time in chronological order. Chronological. I don't know if that's chronological. I don't know how to say that word. Chronological. In the order, like if you want to start at the beginning of the series and work your way to the end of the series. So we will start with the first book in the series, which is the Dragonstone, which has a great cover by Donato Giancola. Not only do I own this book, but I have it signed by Dennis L. McKIERNAN himself, and also by Donato Giancola, the author, the artist. I'm going to edit so many mistakes out of this video that your head will spin at how much editing I do. This one is autographed by both the author and the artist. And it's book 1 in the series, The Dragonstone. And if you want to know what any of these books are like or what they're about, I'm not going to describe the plot of each one as we go. Just know that they're big epic fantasy stories that can... Stories of men and dwarves and elves and orcs and evil lords out to destroy everything, and magic talismans and bows and arrows and battle axes and chainmail armor and battle horses and castles and keeps and dungeons and all of that. That's what they're about. Every single one of them. Book number 2 is The Voyage of the Fox Rider, with a great cover by Keith Parkinson. Now, this is a duology called the Hell's Crucible duology. So these two books go together. I do not know the name of the artist that did these. Let me see if it's easy to find. The artist that painted these covers is Cirilio Cabral. I know Cirilio. He's a cool dude. So that's the Hell's Crucible duology. Book number 5 in the series, my favorite one, is Dragon Doom, with a great cover by, let's see who the cover is by. It's by Jerry Vanderstelt, I think. And then also, since this is my favorite one, I also had McKIERNAN sign this one to me also. So that's Dragon Doom. This is my favorite one of the group. And then we have The Stolen Crown, his most recent one. I think this one came out about 10 years ago. Now, just so you know, Dennis L. McKIERNAN is 91 years old, and he's still writing. And he's been writing since these books since the early 1980s. So. Then, of course, we've got the Iron Tower trilogy, which was the first ones written. These were the ones that put him on the map. These were the big sellers, big bestsellers. And in the Iron Tower trilogy, we have The Darkest Day, we have Shadows of Doom, and The Dark Tide. I think this is book 3, book 2, and book 1. And then we have the Silver Call duology, which comprises the Brega Path and the Trek to Kragan Core. And these covers were done, and these are magnificent covers, my God. These are gorgeous covers. I'll show them to you again. But they were painted by someone who is not listed. No fucking idea who painted these. Let's see. Well, it doesn't say. They did not give credit to the artist. If anybody knows who did these, they are probably my favorite covers out of all of the covers in the whole collection. And just an FYI, I kind of breezed through this. This trilogy, the covers were all done by the great J.R.R. Tolkien illustrator, Alan Lee, who did all of the set design and shit for the movies. And then book number, I think, 11 or 12, The Eye of the Hunter. Now this one has got a nice cover from Keith Parkinson. And then we've got Silver Wolf, Black Falcon, cover done by, let us see, cover done by Dwayne O. Myers. Dwayne O. Myers. And then last, but certainly not to be considered the least, we have The City of Jade. It's a nice looking cover there. Done by, this looks like a Steve Stone cover, but I'm just going to guess. Well, we might not ever know because the cover artist is not listed. Anyway, City of Jade. And that is my entire Dennis L. McKIERNAN book collection. I own the 14 books in his Mithgar series. He's got a couple of other fantasy series that he's written, but I do not own any of those, haven't read any of those, have no fucking idea what they're even about. But these books are some of my favorites of all time. Favorites. Classic fantasy. Every time I start reading them, it just takes me back to when I was a kid and reading them, or the original ones. Just absolutely super dope books.